Good evening, Brigid. Hey.
Hi. Hey, Jim. Everybody must have got my wind call. I was like, where is everybody?
Here.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Really good.
Yay. That's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Would everyone like to
You froze.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, Brigid, and everyone.
How are you today?
Glad to be here.
Good. Well, welcome. Hi, Carrie. I see you just logged on.
Yes.
I'm encouraging everyone. Hi. Oh, you're not in the car. I was almost in my car.
Yes,
We'll
because
save.
I took the day off from work for a mental health day.
Beautiful.
I'm in my car.
All right, Jim. There we go. I like a mobile office every now and again. Just kind of works. So I was just saying hello to everybody and doing a quick check-in to see, just maybe a word or two of how you're doing today before we get started.
Hi,
Well, I'm doing
Erica.
well. I just took the day off, as I said, and I'm glad to be here.
Welcome. Glad you're here. Hi, Erica.
Hi, nice to be here. Nice to be here. Glad I made it.
Yay, me too. Absolutely.
Hi from Lori.
Hi, Lori.
I'm here.
Hello from Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. Really good. Can't complain. All right. So I will just, Jim, you're driving and you already said hey and that you're doing great. So thanks for that. While you're driving, I'll encourage you to keep your eyes open. But for the rest of us, just let's take a minute. Since we're not in person, we're doing this online, I think it would be nice for our energy fields to kind of coalesce and just really come closer together as we enter into this conversation for the Winds of Spirit book study. We'll be going over chapter 1 today. So just take a moment and close your eyes. And let's just imagine that we're all standing in a circle. And there's a beautiful fire taking shape in front of us. And if you're comfortable doing so, just imagine that you're linking hands to the person next to you and to the right. And if you're not comfortable holding hands, that's fine too. And let's just say hello to Eurus in the east, Notus of the south, Zephyrus of the west, and Boreas of the north. Taking a moment to say hello to all of our ancestors that are well in spirit. Hello to Father Sky. Hello to Mother Earth. And taking that extra moment to place a hand over your heart and giving gratitude for yourself today and your body for all that it gives you in a 24-hour period and a lifetime. And I too am feeling incredibly grateful to be here with all of you, sharing in this experience. Thanking you for taking time away from whatever else you were doing to be present on this call, making that extra effort to be in our community. And just one nice deep breath in and blow it out. Aho.
Oh.
Welcome, Jamie.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, wolf howl. Ow! All right. So we went over chapter 1. I assume that all of us did our reading. And if not, still feel comfortable to share where you're at. Well, sometimes it doesn't happen, and that's fine too. It's funny because I read the book last year, and when I picked it up, I'm like, wow, this is like a whole new book. How, like so much has happened in a year. I don't even remember reading this book. So that was fun. Like, sometimes you pick up a book and you're like, I already read this. I remember everything, or, it's not really relevant, but it's so relevant again where I am in my life. And I'm like, that is such a great thing to have. Like, it's just a constant reference manual. So one of the things that I loved was in her introduction, she was sharing about how her esoteric quest had began. And it made me think about, do you remember the catalyst in your life? Like, what started the spiritual trajectory that we're all walking right now? Hi, Jasmine. We're all currently in the middle of our path in one way or another. And I'm just really interested to start the conversation with, what was the catalyst for you?
I'll go.
Okay.
I've always been spiritual, and I've always dabbled, but it wasn't until 2013, 14, and 15, I was in a toxic work environment. And it literally took me down to my knees. And I chose to leave the job I hated. And I quit, and I ended up in a little nunnery in Idaho, and I stayed there for about a week and searched my soul, and it all came down.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, I can really relate to that. And I like a nunnery. I'll have to come back to you on that one. I've never really heard of a nunnery before. I'm like, it sounds like it's really beautiful, though.
Retreat. Yeah.
Did you say it's a retreat?
Well, it's in Idaho. It's run by the Catholic nuns, and they have this beautiful facility that they open up to all different, the monks, anybody can rent it and hold retreats there. But
okay.
I stayed off campus, so to say, in an inn where they nursed me back to health. I'm not Catholic.
Yeah, yeah.
No. Yeah.
Hi, Marianne.
Hi.
Were you, I noticed that you had signed in, but I don't know if you heard the question. We were talking about what was the catalyst for you that started you on your journey?
How do you,
Can you
hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, you can. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've never used this before. My name's Cynthia. I wasn't here for the group last week, but I'm here now and excited to get started with you guys. And yeah, a little bit about my beginning was I was actually not a spiritual person in the least. I mean, I just admitted that I have no idea what's going on. Like, I didn't say there is no God or creator. I just have no idea. And when my father passed in 1992 in a car accident very suddenly, he, all of a sudden, all these synchronicities started happening in my life. Just, I would think about something and it would show up, and I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I ended up going into a bookstore for self-help and found a series of coincidences led me to take home a book by Lynn Andrews, who's a shaman, who is a shaman, and her books were very helpful for me, and I read almost all her books at the time, but then I ended up, my life took a big turn, and I wasn't doing much related to spiritual practice for years until about 5 years ago, when I was invited to a group meeting, like a 4-week session they called it Going from Good to Great. And it turned out to be this, for me, it was such a completely different experience than anything I'd have experienced before. It was like getting to know people from the inside out, is the only way I can describe it. And it was just so beautiful. And it linked me back up into doing more spiritual study. And now for the past 5 or 6 years, I've really been studying many, many things, including energy work and animal communication and shaman practice and all kinds of stuff. So it's been a roller coaster ride. It's taken me a long, long time.
Yeah, I get that. Oh, thank you so much. Really nice to meet you. It's my first time meeting you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to share what their catalyst was for their spiritual quest?
I'll go if no one else is. I'm
All right.
almost home though. So close. Let's see here. You can all see me as I do this. There, hold on. We'll see. I've lost the connection 3 or 4 times. So if I go, I'll be right back. Wait. There. Okay, I'm in. Close enough. So I'm going to say it was about 3 years ago. I was sitting at home with a really bad case of asthma, which has come and gone my whole life. And I stumbled upon a YouTube video, or you could say I was divinely guided there. And as I listened to that, I slowly kind of drifted off, left me, and I ended up sitting around a campfire with an Indian medicine chief and his wolf. And as I sat there with him, I became the medicine chief, and wolf of searching, discovering for me. That's probably the most inspiring thing. So I've gone through Reiki, I've gone out and explored this, and it's been a fascinating life so far. And a lot of different experiences, I think, at all the different levels as a result. And I'm getting to the point where it's become a lot more familiar. I feel more confident. It's kind of the transition time where I've got to start to look at how do I start contributing back into everything that I've received so far. So that's where I'd be for today.
That's such a beautiful question. You know, it's like, how can I contribute back to everything that's been given to me so far? I really like that. Thank you. Yeah, and it leads me to think of a question that I've been walking with for a while, which is like, what is life asking of me? Right? Because for so long I thought, you know, I mean, I followed the guidance, I'm doing the things, but it's like, what is life really asking of me? Because if I want to relinquish control, then it's an invitation with that question, right? Like, I'm actually not the one in charge here. I'd kind of like to be a little bit. I'm an Aries, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, so that's what that reminds me of, you know, hearing that question, like, what can I contribute back? I mean, that's really a place of surrender and like offering. So thanks for throwing that in.
Yeah, I've gone through life. I haven't really so much cared as what we do. It's kind of always been for me a little more of how we're going to do it or what attitude would we do it with.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what was really refreshing and kind of awakening for me in starting to read the book was I got kind of a bigger picture of the journey that I've been on. And it's kind of like one day I think it just like you. One day I think, oh, I guess I'm going to be doing this. Next day, no, I'm going to be doing that. And well, this week I got the picture of, no, it seems more like I'm going to continue doing this process for a while, which now makes a lot more sense until.
Oh, we lost you.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, you're almost home though, Jim. So we'll, I know you're hanging tight. Anyone else would you like to share?
Yeah, I wanted to say, this is Nancy. I don't know if you
Hi,
saw
Nancy.
me sitting here. But for me, it's a combination of we're put where we're put, we're walking where we're walking. And in order to heal, as we learn all these things, it's the giving back and the gratitude and the giving to others that are in need that actually heals ourselves. And the more we can walk with that and then step into the surrender. And that's been really big for me. Just give it to God, or give it to the winds, or give it to, let it go. And realize that, yes, we are strong enough to do whatever it is we must do. And if we face it and go with it, we can become more than we ever thought, and we can be stronger than we ever believed, and we can heal others in ways we could never possibly imagine. But it's been a huge thing for me, the wind work basics and the wind work, putting the practicality of it together, because I've been in a place of where I've had to go through all the steps and processes that I was put where I would only be in spirit now for almost 11 years, and to work with it. So it's been a long walk, but to also
Nancy, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
just, I don't know, it says, quote unquote, my internet connection is unstable. So sorry about that.
I'm like, no, not right now. Not when you're like in the heart of your sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear, but it's just to kind of step into the wind and let it go like the prayer flags off the mountains and fly. Go ahead and soar with it, and just that's kind of it. But the practical with the spiritual a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have a secret guest that just joined us. Hello, Renee.
From, I guess outpatient. I wish we had another me over there at outpatient.
Hold on, I'll make sure my phone's on. Mute.
Thank you. Yeah, so we were just sharing, for those of you that, Jim, you came back on, but for anyone that's new to the call, we were just sharing if anyone recalled what their catalyst was that began their esoteric quest, as Renee had shared her story in the beginning of the book. And so we did have a few shares about that. And does anyone else want to chime in?
Hey, it's me. I just want to chime in and say hello to everyone. I'm at work in the middle of a meeting with Irish over here. She's going to say hello too.
Hi.
And
Hi.
So I wanted to say I'm so excited that so many of you are here and reading the book with me. And it was really exciting this week to sit down and read my own book that I put in 2 years ago. So I can't stay, but I'm going to try to get there next week and talk some more too.
Great. Well, thank you, Renee.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask questions and stuff on the wall with you, so make sure you kind of check the wall too.
Will do.
All right. I told you I was only going to be a burst of wind in and be burst of wind out.
Thanks for the gust.
All right. Bye.
Bye. So one of the things that she shared in the book that I thought was really interesting, and I had never really considered it before, but she made the statement that navigation is a creative act. And I thought, well, that's a really interesting statement because navigation seems like such a practical thing, right? Like we know we have to get from point A to point B. But what comes up for you when you hear that? Like navigation is a creative act. What does that spark in you?
I was just thinking when you said that, this is Carrie, if you can't see me, I'm not sure. You know, it just instantly I thought of like back in the day when people were out just exploring and coming across new lands, which, you know, new ways of looking at things and creating the path as they went, which is sometimes how life is, creating the path as we go. But if we have some guidance, like a map, at things are always a little easier.
Right.
But or our compass, right? If we have a compass, then things are a little easier. But what made me think about navigating as a creative act is that it originally it was creative act to blaze a new path, but it is still like that every day. We're navigating and we create our day. We create our day. We create our lives like minute by minute. And that I actually came across a quote that really was really good for me right now, which was, your future is hidden in the little details of your day, of your everyday. Like what we're doing is creating our future. And it, you know, what we, you know, from all the little choices that we make all day. So yeah, that's what I thought.
That's great, Carrie. Thank you so much. I like that quote. Would you be willing to pop that into the chat on the wall? Can you save that quote for us?
Oh, on the wall, yes. Right now I can't because I have to get it.
Yeah.
No, I can type it in, yeah.
I didn't mean right this second.
Oh, okay.
But whenever you can, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great quote. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share?
Unmute. All right, I'm unmuted.
All right.
I'm good. Yeah, so I've created different things most of my life, crafts or painting or various things. And life is a lot like that process where you begin with some materials to develop something. And then at some point, even if you kind of had a vision of where you wanted it to go initially, it takes on a life of its own and changes as you're going along. So it's just like that. It's just like, you know, your life is art, basically. Art in, oh, well, anyways, you get my idea. Can you hear me very well?
Absolutely. You're loud and clear. I'm putting myself on mute because I live in an urban area and there's a ton of traffic for some reason right now. Yeah, but you know, I think that's a really interesting statement that I resonate with a lot, and it's where I'm trying to orient my own life, is that life is art. And I want to be the artist, and everything being, you know, a color on the palette or a stroke or, you know, like, and it's changeable. It's always changeable. And a creation, like I keep adding to it or making slight adjustments. So yeah, thank you for that, Cynthia.
You're a sculptor, Brigid.
Hey, Gail. Why are you this way?
Am I?
Yeah. There we go. It's so good to see you. Welcome.
I saw it sideways and I didn't know if it was just me.
It was sideways.
Hello,
Welcome.
everybody. I'm Gail, and it's very early in the morning here. I did a writing last night on that, getting from point A to point B. So it's interesting that you asked that, because isn't it interesting that we all think that getting from point A to point B is a straight line, and yet when you think of nature, nothing's a straight line. So a creek will forge a path through the gorge until it can get to the ocean, and the path will never be straight. And that's the same for waterfall. As it trickles down a mountainside, it's never straight. And yet we all think that we're going to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And our path, I remember drawing it last night and I thought, wow, that is very windy. We have loops and we have detours and we have all sorts of things, and yet we think our path is going to be straight. So it's just, for me, there was no epiphany in my path in life. It was just all of those detours that took me somewhere else that I realized where I didn't want to be. And so it was getting back on the track of who I am all the time. So I didn't have any big things that happened, anything that knocked me for a six. It was more of those little things, those little detours that kept on getting me back on track to where I wanted to be.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. Yeah, I like that about the river. You know, she definitely cuts her own way no matter what. And, you know, there isn't ever an apology. You know, like I think about the wind never apologizes for doing what it has to do. Right. And there's no self-consciousness with it either. Like, oh, excuse me, I shouldn't have blown over there. I shouldn't have moved that, or I shouldn't have done that, you know. And it's the same with all of nature. It's like life on life terms, you know, how she shares that in the book, life on life's terms. And that's exactly what I'm hearing you share in that. Like you did a lot of things on your own terms. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Like I said, it's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, Brigid. So yeah, and that's what I found, is that I become more sensitive to the compass in knowing which direction is the right direction for me, and then feeling my moods change and shift with the wind, and then readjusting. So there's a lot of readjustment. It's just like sailing when you have to tack. You know, I remember my father, when I was 16, we used to sail together quite a bit on a catamaran, and to get from here to an island which was 5 miles away could be a straight path, but then coming back we would have to tack all the time, and so you would have to know where you're going so that you realize you weren't on the wrong track.
Gail, Jim in our group, he's a sailor. So I'm sure he appreciates the nautical terms.
Just about to dive in with the nautical thing too. Yeah. Carry on, then I'll get in there.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll dive in.
I do remember an octopus flying up on a trampoline one time from the water.
Oh my God.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Wait a minute.
It wasn't a very big one. It was only small.
Did you just say an octopus flying up on a trampoline?
Well, it wasn't actually flying. You hit a wave and it flies out of the water onto the trampoline part that's in the middle of the catamaran.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the trampoline. Sorry.
I'm like, wait a minute. What just happened? Where did I go? That completely threw me. Oh, that's great. Okay, now I'm with you. I get it. I can visualize it. I'm back. Okay. That's funny. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just curious, you know, everyone takes away something different from each of these chapters, and I would love for you guys, whoever wants to share, for what really stands out for you from your first reading. what would you like to share in the group?
There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. It's
Hi.
Erica. Hey. I feel so new here. Well, okay, so I read everything just before the call. I read the intro and I read the first chapter. And I also listened to John Denver the whole time. And the whole John Denver experience just knocked me so this whole experience, I was like it was like right into my soul. So I feel like I'm in the middle of some sort of revelation or something just via John Denver alone, which was awesome. So thank you for bringing me back to John Denver. I think I grew up with him when I was very, very young through friends and never, ever, ever listened to him till today. So, wow. But I don't really know where I'm going with my statement, but I feel very called to the wind work in terms of like I'm here because of the wind being prevalent in all the major sort of spiritual experiences I've had in nature. So a lot of like really, really intense or pivotal moments have been like in storms, or when the wind is really blowing, or there's something that happens. There's always something connected to the wind. And so that's sort of what brought me to the book and to Renee that way. So yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at in terms of the process. It seems to be unfolding as I go, and I'm very excited. Like the river, like Gail just said about how the river is it's winding its way back to the ocean, and it really is true. I feel like if you had to say what was the pivotal moment, it would have been when I was very little, like just when I was in high school, a sensation of wanting to end my life and calling out to God, and then feeling a response from something and feeling held. And that was a moment for me that was just like, wow, there's something, but I don't know what it is, but there's something. And that kind of, I guess it kind of set the compass, or set like something in a direction of looking or searching. And then just noticing as I go along sort of that the wind always is there, nature, storms. And so it's led to a lot of just really awesome, fun life experiences, and it's all still unfolding.
Huzzah. Yeah, same here. I'm really glad that you found us, and thank you for participating. I think that the statement that you made, like, I'm really not sure, that's the perfect place for wind work, because that's the common theme is like you set out or start doing something, but it just has its own energy and timing and need from us, right? It's not always what we're needing. Sometimes the winds need something too. And so we never really know, Erica. And one of the things that Renee and I were sharing at the opening of our the wind study group is that the best laid intentions sometimes just completely go off the rails because we are working with the wind. So there's no perfection. There's like, we show up as best we can and then we roll with it, you know? So kind of like a paper bag in the wind. Just
awesome.
Kind of float. Yeah. So welcome. Mm-hmm.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. Glad you're here. Yeah. Anyone else? What really stood out for you from chapter 1? I'd love to hear.
I'll talk. What I've noticed is compasses more often, and I see them more often. You know, like the other day, somebody had a shirt on and it had a compass on it. Seeing it in companies' logos. I've become more aware of how often a compass will be in the graphic design. And I thought, isn't that interesting that I've never really noticed that so much before, but I'm noticing it more now. And I think that as far as, creation and navigation, we get to choose what our guiding star is. We get to choose, which way, like you were talking about sailing and tacking, we get to choose whether we want to put our sail down and just, let the, or put it up, and which way we want to go. And it's a co-creation, if I can use a buzzword. It's that co-creation is a type of navigation. But I think that for me, really, like I said, I've been really stunned at how much I've been noticing the compasses and just out there, not even with directions on them. So I think that made me more aware of that. I forgot my book today. I'm actually at work, and I forgot my book today because I had some things underlined, but that's what I don't have anything more to say.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for that, Jamie. And, whatever you weren't able to share because your book isn't with you, just put it up on the wall so that we can respond to you. Okay? Thanks for chiming in. Who wants to go next?
It's Kim from Kamloops, BC, Canada.
Hi, Kim.
I think Lori was trying to say something earlier, but I see she's gone off the screen anyway. So, yeah, I joined a little late, but so I appreciate you repeating the question that you started off with. And navigation as a creative act was one line that really kind of jumped out at me too, because I'd never really thought of it in those terms. But when you think about navigating anything, like everybody's been saying, you do need to create a map, right? You need to create a some idea of where or which direction you'd like to go into, or which, something, that's drawing you in that direction, or there's something there though that is the impetus, and then the navigation is you taking action and creating that that whatever vision you had. It was interesting to me though that it came up in this book too as well, because I'm in part of a writers group here locally, and the leader of that group and mentor has had the opportunity of sailing on a tall ship at one point. And she likes to use a lot of navigational terms in her, mentoring us to think more creatively, to be more creative with our writing and that kind of thing. So I found those parallels interesting. The other line that kind of jumped up at me was the human body is always fixed in the present. It's just in the next paragraph there. And I've lived with a chronic illness since I was a teenager, and I've always had this kind of almost love-hate relationship with my body, like I do with some of my technology these days too. But but that, I think the reason that line stood out for me so strongly was that it has always been my body that's brought me back to the present, the now, right? Whenever I've had a health crisis, that it's, insisted that I be in the here and now. Yeah, it was kind of like yeah, that's exactly what has been happening to me. And I've been a lifelong student as far as trying to be more self-aware and learn as many things as I possibly can as to how and why I react to certain things, right? And yeah, it's like, I think I've taken my body for granted a lot of the times. I think a lot of times I spend spend too much time in my head thinking about things. But yeah, it's always been my body that has brought me back to the here and now, gotten me out of that not so much gotten me out of the headspace, I guess, as to make me more aware of that I need to do some thinking about where I am here and now, like, you know. So yeah, like I said before, the you know, the wind has always spoken to me. I haven't always listened, of course, and I haven't always listened to my body either, you know. So they keep trying to get my attention, thank goodness.
Well, and as I listen to you, Kim, it's really interesting. I've had this theory about the wind work that it really relates to certain, like it's more intriguing to certain astrological signs than others, because I'm a fire sign and you would think that fire would naturally love the wind. But I just had a wind epiphany as I was listening to you. The reason why I found the wind so irksome when I finally heard it tell me, you know, you're going to find a teacher, like you need to learn how to work with me and the teacher's coming. The reason it was so irksome is because I was not in my body, and I came back into my body to be fully present to that situation. Like that was my catalyst for working with the wind. It was like punishing me. It felt punishing and brutal. A day on the beach in the Dominican. And I just had that connection, like, oh yeah, I wasn't in my body. That's why it was bugging me so bad.
Has to get our attention somehow, eh?
Yeah, I can cite several occurrences like that now. So yeah, that definitely stood out to me too, is how our body is always fixed in the present. I was like, wow, I definitely have traveled away from my body a lot in my lifetime. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I'll share.
Come on.
I read the book a while back, but now I'm rereading the chapter. What struck me the most, I mean, there was a few things, but what struck me the most.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
Oop.
You got me now?
Nope, I can't hear you. I can see you talking.
I can hear her.
You can hear me?
Yep.
I'm unmuted.
I hear you.
Can anyone else hear her? Maybe it's me.
Yeah, they're saying
I can hear her.
Okay, so hold on. It might just...
Yeah, I'm hearing her good too.
Your headphones, maybe.
Got it.
Okay. So I was just saying, I read the book a while back, but rereading it, what stood out the most for me was this line on page 16 about sourcing from the unconscious and responding from a place of service is a shift. But I wrote, where do I choose to source my energy and my awareness? Like sourcing from the unconscious. I mean, it kind of is mindfulness based, if you know, but it's also more than that. It's, you know, you can really take that onto that spiritual level of not just mindful and not just conscious, but for responding from a place of service, like breathe, inhale, and stop before you act and figure out, is this in service or not? In service to other people, but it also service to yourself, you know. And so yeah, that's like a good way of conserving your energy. So and yeah, so that stood out to me, was sourcing from the unconscious.
Yeah, that was the subconscious and superconscious. That whole section was really, really engaging for me. And one of the things that I thought was a beautiful reminder is that Ani, sacred reciprocity, which kind of, you know, it goes to what you're saying, Carrie. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I think that there's certain archetypes that play in all of our lives for the earlier parts, right? And then as we age, we, you know, we heal the shadow aspects of one and come into contact with, you know, another one, so on and so forth. And the caregiver you know, which is such a common archetype. Like sacred reciprocity is a whole new concept, right? It's like, what? I mean, people can actually give to me and I can receive and then give back, and like it can work both ways. Like that's beautiful. And not to a point of depletion.
Yes.
You know, yeah, I really, and speaking of the body, again, the work of integrating the conscious awareness using wind work begins by learning to stay present in your body. Without conscious awareness, you can easily slip in and out of your body without knowing it. And I was like, yeah. So, you know, just to kind of wrap up that other part that I was sharing earlier, it's like, that's why I think the wind is such a great teacher, but not always an easy teacher, because learning how to stay in the body, using the body as the orientation compass, takes a minute if we're not used to being there. Especially if we're used to being in our head, or just, you know, going on a walkabout. Who else? Anyone else want to share what really stood out to them in chapter 1?
Well, I remember what you were just saying about service there, and you find that with a lot of caretakers. They have caretakers, caregivers. Caregivers are different to caretakers. Caregivers are people who give to people who are actually in need, as in they're disabled. So caretakers are those who are filling a need in themselves to actually give to others. And so with caretakers, I've found, because we've worked with them a lot, so with caretakers, what they need to understand is the service to themselves. And so it's that I always think of giving like a pipe, in that people think it's a good thing to give, and it is, but unless people receive, people can't give. And so in that pipe, as we give, the other end is open to receiving as well. So in our giving, we're actually receiving. And when we allow ourselves to receive, then that pipe goes both ways.
Yep.
And it's more of a balance then, because I'm a Libran, so
Oh yeah, yeah,
balance.
yeah. Well, and I think that, and the trick, and that's why it was shared in this part, is because it's showing the progression through one's awakening, right? Normally when we're not awake, we're not aware of what is a full cup. What does it mean to receive? What is it, you know, like why, what is the intention of my giving? We're not even that awake to notice yet, right? And so I think that that's the, it's a really well illustrated part in the book about the way that we wake up, like the 3 steps to awakening, you know, and where are we in that awakening? And I love how Carrie shared on the wall the other day that, you know, it's not a one time and done. Like you don't go through 1, 2, and 3 and then you're just done. It's like, well, I did 1, 2, and 3 and I lived through it. So now I'm going to go to 1 again and then maybe to 2. Yeah. And keep refining and learning.
Yeah, I see it a lot like a sculpture. You know how you have a sculpture and you add bits here and you refine bits there and you make dents there, and then you don't like it, so you smooth it over and you start again. And we get to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Thank goodness, because I don't think I could get it right on the first try. Thank you. Anyone else want to share their insights from, or what, you know, what was inspiring for you from chapter 1?
Okay, jumping back in.
All right. Hey, Jeff.
This time, I'm excited. I won't be failing out. Oh my goodness. So I liked one of the comments. It was on page 17 where they talked about, despite our ability to globally communicate in seconds via electronic media, which is really cool, we've also lost the ability to connect with nature and one another as well as our inner selves. And that's part of what my journey down this path is for me. It's something, I work in electronics and we have people who's located around the world, but the ability to connect, to clear different things as it comes up and to move the folks forward is that next area or avenue in my life that I'm looking towards. So, you know, if I look at it, and I know I go back to talking about the sailor bit, but, you know, I grew up windsurfing and having a catamaran. One of the things you had to do when you did that was, you know, it's a conscious choice to actually leave the beach and step forward onto the boat or onto the windsurfer. You then had to trust that the wind, which you couldn't see, was going to be there. You then had to sail forth and then really kind of let go and lean back into the wind. And it was a constant balance between leaning back and hoping you don't fall over, but adjusting the sail so you'd go forward, but not adjusting the sail the wrong way to where it would flip you over the other direction or catapult you forward and spin you all around. But it was more of a conscious choice, repeated effort and activity. And I think that was one of the biggest things I got out of just the first 2 chapters so far, is I could see that whole bigger process. I can see all the different waves of awakenings that I've gone through at the different levels, and just see it's something that I'll never control, but it's something that I can choose to go out and do every day and get better at and have fun with and enjoy. And there's some days where I may just sit on the beach and say, yeah, no thanks.
I like those days.
But you know, I may get pushed out anyway.
Yeah.
It was very, very refreshing to me. And that's part of why I left my bigger comment out there too. It was just a big realization. You know, I could see the journey from many different perspectives. And I wrote Walkabout, like an Aborigine, you're just kind of wandering to see what's there, versus Columbus, who went somewhere with a purpose, versus the guy that hiked a mountain just to get to that elevation. Each of those different steps had a different perspective, a different purpose. And they were fun in their own trip. And it's, when I look back over life that way, I was just really wonderfully surprised, I guess, to see, oh, all this kind of makes sense. And there was a theme. I just couldn't see it for a while. And this one just struck a chord with me. So very excited, and we're just in chapter 1.
I know. Well, and you know, and the curious thing about it is, how far would we really go if we could see it all? Would we lose interest? Would there be any intrigue? And, you know, I think about that sometimes. Like, if I could really, if someone just said to me, sit down for 2 minutes, I'm going to do an entire movie reel of all of the things that you're going to go through in life, I think it would kind of like, it's like when you've been waiting to watch a movie and then someone walks in and tells you the ending and you're like, oh, well, forget it. I'm not interested anymore. Right?
Bill Murray and Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
He woke up every day and kept doing it. And even if you knew, there'd be something richer that you could get out of each moment in doing whatever it was that you knew you were about to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the experiences that we keep having in the wind classes, is they're so deep. And I don't know what it is about the wind work itself. I mean, the processes, you know, they seem like they're relatively simple, but they just go so deep. And that's the one thing about working with the wind that I constantly am in awe of and appreciative of, is like, you took me to a new depth again. That's amazing. Thank you so much. You know, I mean, I always think of the wind as being like kind of, you know, on the surface of everything, but no, I mean, it stirs things from the depths as well. So that's pretty cool. You know, you guys, the thing that really struck out for me, hold on, stood out for me, and I think that probably everybody on the call knows it. I know I've heard it before, but every single time I hear it, I'm like, whoa. Is that every breath that we exhale and inhale has traveled around the world, and it cycles through everything. And that, like, it like makes me gasp when I really think about it and feel into that. It's like, wow. I mean, Gail's in Australia, and it feels like such a lucky occurrence when I get to see her on these calls. And at some point, we've inhaled and exhaled the same breath, just like with all of you. And I think that that is miraculous. And it just, that captured my attention again while reading chapter 1. That was my big, like, okay, responsibility for what's leaving my body and really, you know, being present to what's coming in.
There are a lot of metaphors in life, aren't they? I love the sailing one, and there is so much more that you could put into that, because, you know, you have start at point A and you go to point B, and then you have your journey in between, and the journey in between is what we call sailing. and everywhere we look, we can see metaphors for that. It's just such a wonderful constant. And I think that's a part of the awareness, isn't it? Is finding metaphors for your own life that we can then say, oh, yes, this makes sense to us. We can see it from a different perspective coming from that metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the metaphor begins and then the action gives it legs, you know? So is there anyone else that would like to share before we get ready to close out our circle from today?
Well, I just quickly wanted to say that I think all the, the metaphors and whatever's going on with everything makes a lot of sense. But the navigation is what happens not when we're going from point A to point B, but what everybody has said in different eloquent ways is when we're pulled off course. What is our reaction? Are we willing to be with what is as it is? How do we react to that? Are we pulled out of our hearts and hooked into the drama and the trauma, or are we able to, it says, what is it on page 16, I think? No.
Once you become radically awake.
Oh, forgiveness. No, that's not where I am. I lost the page. It's about writing your anger in the sand and letting it erase with the on the edge of the sand. Like when you're angry, you just give it up. You let it go, surrender. But there it is. When someone hurts us, we should write it down in sand where the winds of forgiveness can erase it away. So the ocean is coming up and it's just it's erasing it away. And life is what's happening when we're off course, when we're pulled off course. We can plan our course all we want to, but I believe that we come in with a plan and we know everything that's going to happen. We've just forgotten it. We made it all up. And I'm always saying, really, did I think this? What was I thinking? What exactly was I thinking?
What were you thinking, Nancy?
And then so long, and the more what was I thinking? But so we learn all these things and we can become stronger and stronger and stronger and more able to step into the winds and fly and chart our own course when we accept what is as it is. And work within that. Doesn't mean we have to keep it that way. If we can help it, we can hopefully change it and make it better and help others from having come to our lowest lows. We can share with others to help them learn, if that makes sense. But to me, the big key is forgiveness. It's radical forgiveness. Forgive everybody for everything.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I like when she says, once you become radically awake, it becomes increasingly easy to respond instead of react.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of our hour, and I would just like to set us up for next week so we can go into reading chapter 2. And what do you guys think about reading chapter 2 and then just allowing, what wind, Cheryl left, allowing what wind wants to work with you, like just go to the wind deities at the back. I'm trying to find where they start here. Let's see here. Okay, they start at page 127. So just open the book to 127 and kind of see where you stop. And notice what wind that is. And, you can go outside during the week or not. I mean, I don't know what the weather's like for some of us, but, and just notice, like, what direction is that wind calling your attention in? What do you guys think about that?
Sounds like fun.
Good.
Almost like an oracle card.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But a wind card.
I'm assuming we can pull the card.
What was that, Erica?
Can we pull cards as well? If my book, I'm using the Kindle version.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So do the card. Yep.
Just draw a card. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there cards to go with the book?
There are cards to go with the
yes.
book. And look at this little snazzy doodad. This is my wind whistle.
Mm.
And I love it. I use it all the time.
Is that on Amazon too?
You know what? That's a great question. I know that it's on her website. I don't know if it's on Amazon. Yeah, I'm not sure. Hello, sweetie pie. I see your dog.
Hi. It took me all this time to figure out my technical difficulties, but I did it.
Hi, Cheryl. Welcome. Yay. We were just figuring out if we're going to work on chapter 2 and pull a wind card or use the back of the book, which starts at page 127. So you can just, open your book to page 127 and just kind of naturally let the pages open and see where your finger stops. And whatever wind that is, during this week, you can, invite that wind in and see what direction you're working with it. If you're in the east, south, west, or north, just kind of ask intuitively. You don't have to know.
What was the page number again? I'm sorry.
127. Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming on to the call. And, again, I'm always open to feedback. Doing a book study is new for me. So, I want us all to feel included and participating and getting to share what's really in our thoughts and hearts when it comes to this experience. This is not the Brigid experience. This is our community experience. So please offer feedback. And, I look forward to when we get to... Yes, that's correct, Nancy. Thank you for putting that on there.
Thanks, Brigid.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Good.
organizing us. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
You too.
Thank you.
Aho.
Aho.
Bye.
Bye-bye.